My name is Juma. I forged my company from the vibrant dust and relentless energy of the Karyaka market, slowly building an empire from a humble start. I learned the rhythm of commerce not in a sterile classroom, but amidst the calls of vendors and the scent of spices, where every shilling was earned through sweat and shrewd negotiation. This foundation, built on grit and the raw pulse of the city, defined every step of my journey. I ascended from selling trinkets to tourists to commanding one of the most prominent towers in all of Dar es Salaam. The journey was long, marked by sleepless nights and risks that could have ruined me. From a small stall, I grew to a modest shop, then a warehouse, and finally, this monument of glass and steel that pierced the skyline. It stood as a symbol of my success, a testament to how far a boy from the market could go. After decades of witnessing the city's pulse from my high-altitude perch, I truly believed I had seen everything it could possibly offer. I've observed fortunes materializing and vanishing in a single night, watched the monsoons claim the streets and the sun scorch them dry. I had met with presidents and paupers, each with their own story of ambition or despair, and I thought I understood the full spectrum of human experience. This belief in my own worldly wisdom had made me comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. I saw the world through the lens of balance sheets and schedules, believing that everything could be measured, predicted, and controlled. I had constructed a reality for myself where there were no more surprises, only challenges to be managed. Yet, I had never encountered anything like the small girl who entered my office on a Tuesday morning. She arrived not as a data point on a spreadsheet, but as a force of nature I could not have anticipated. In doing so, she would forever change my perspective with a lesson I so desperately needed to learn about the world. The atmosphere in my office was meticulously climate-controlled, a stark sanctuary from the sweltering humidity that was already rising from the city streets below. It was my fortress of solitude, designed to keep the chaotic energy of the world at a comfortable distance. Here, everything was orderly, quiet, and precisely as I commanded it to be. Through my expansive panoramic window, Dar es Salaam stirred to life in its magnificent, chaotic splendor. I watched the endless river of boda-bodas weaving through traffic, the graceful women balancing baskets of fresh mangoes on their heads in their colorful kangas, and the distant, shimmering expanse of the Indian Ocean. It is a metropolis that never ceases its motion, and I was positioned directly at its core, a veritable king reigning from a castle made of glass. That particular morning, however, my primary emotion was annoyance. My 10 o'clock appointment, a candidate for a cleaning position, was late, and I despise lateness. To me, it's a glaring sign of disrespect and a fundamental flaw in a person's character. I tapped my expensive pen on the mahogany desk, its sharp clicks echoing my growing impatience. My assistant buzzed me twice to apologize for the delay. I informed her that if the candidate failed to appear within 5 minutes, she was to cancel the interview immediately. In my world, punctuality was the bedrock of all success. Just as my patience had completely expired, the heavy, ornate door to my office swung open. But the figure who entered was not a nervous job applicant. It was a child, a little girl, who couldn't have been older than 8 or 9, stood hesitantly on the edge of the vast room. She seemed so incredibly tiny, utterly dwarfed by the imposing scale of my corporate office. She was dressed in a simple but bright chitinge dress, a cheerful patchwork of blues and yellows that reminded me of a clear morning sky. Her hair was intricately braided with small white beads that made a soft, clicking sound whenever she moved. Her sandals were clearly worn, and her small feet were dusty, suggesting she had traveled a very long way to reach my tower. She was clutching a faded blue school bag against her chest, as if it contained the most precious secrets of the entire universe. She held her small frame tall, chin defiantly up, but her wide, serious eyes were cautiously taking in every detail of the room, the massive desk, the sprawling city below, and me. I found myself just staring at her, my carefully cultivated annoyance quickly dissolving into a profound sense of confusion. All the sharp edges of my impatience seemed to melt away in the face of this unexpected visitor. "Habari, little one," I managed to say, my voice emerging much softer than I had intended. "Are you lost? Are you perhaps searching for your mother?" She took a minuscule, deliberate breath, a tiny gesture of immense courage that one could have easily overlooked. She then shook her head firmly. No, sir. I am not lost. My name is Amina. I have come for my mother's job interview. The words seemed to just hang in the silent, conditioned air of the office, each one landing with an impossible weight. An interview? I peered past her, half expecting her mother to suddenly appear in the doorway, offering an explanation for this baffling scene. But there was no one. It was only her, a child, standing in the CEO's office, apparently to apply for a job. The situation was so profoundly absurd that I almost let out a laugh. I leaned back in my leather chair, now completely captivated by the unfolding mystery. "Your mother sent you?" I inquired, trying my best to piece together the logic of this bizarre event. "She was unable to come today," Amina stated, her voice remarkably steady, although I could perceive a slight tremor in her small, clasped hands. "She instructed me to come in her place, so you will be certain that she did not forget the appointment. She said it was very, very important." My earlier irritation had now vanished entirely, replaced by a deep and compelling curiosity. I gestured toward one of the large leather chairs positioned across from my desk, a piece of furniture that had intimidated many powerful and influential people. "Please, Amina, have a seat." She perched herself right on the very edge of the cushion, her dusty sandals dangling a great distance above the polished floor. She looked like a tiny, solitary boat adrift on a vast, dark ocean. Her perceptive eyes scanned the room, absorbing all the polished symbols of my accumulated success. I then saw her gaze settle on a small plate of mandazzi that my assistant had brought in earlier with my morning coffee. I gently slid the plate in her direction. "Are you hungry? Please have one." She hesitated for only a moment before a shy, genuine smile blossomed on her face, instantly illuminating her otherwise serious expression. She carefully took one of the pastries, whispered soft, "Asani," and then took a small, delicate bite. "Amina," I began, leaning forward on my expansive desk to close the distance between us. My voice was gentle, as I knew the next question was important. "Why was your mother unable to come to the interview today? Where is she right now?" I watched her closely, sensing that her answer would be the key to this entire mystery. She swallowed her bite of mandazzi, and her gaze fell to her hands resting in her lap. The bright light in her eyes seemed to dim for a moment, as if a cloud had passed over the sun. When she looked back up at me, her gaze was so direct and unfiltered that it was almost heartbreaking. "She is in the hospital," she said in a quiet voice. Muhimbulai Hospital. The name of the national hospital landed with a heavy thud in the silent room, seemingly sucking all the air out of it. "She is sick," Amina continued, her voice gaining a little strength as if to defend her mother's honor. "She was crying this morning, not because of the pain. She was crying because she said this job was our very last hope. She was so worried that you would think she was not serious about the work." Her words painted a picture of desperation and dignity that struck me to my very core. I was rendered completely speechless. All of my morning's built-up frustration about strict schedules and corporate profit margins now felt so ridiculously small, so utterly meaningless when measured against this little girl's profound words. Here she was, having successfully navigated this huge, overwhelming city on her own, found her way up a skyscraper, and walked into a CEO's office, all to protect her mother's dignity and hold on to their family's last glimmer of hope. "My mommy always says to be brave, even when your heart is beating like a drum," she said, placing a small hand over her chest to emphasize her point. "And she says to always tell the truth. So the truth is, she needs this job very much." A small involuntary smile crossed my face as she then added, "She is the best cleaner. She sings when she works, and she makes everything shine like new." Then she looked out at the city and declared her own dream. "I want to be a doctor, so I can help people, like the nurses are helping my mother, so no other little girl has to go to a job interview for her mommy." At that exact moment, I was no longer CEO. I was no longer the king in a glass castle. In her determined eyes, I saw a reflection of myself. I saw the young boy from a small, forgotten village who dared to dream of building something that would last forever. But her dream was not about acquiring money or power. It was built on a foundation of pure love and a desire to heal the world's hardships. I felt something profound shift deep within my soul. This office, which I had so meticulously constructed to keep the world at a distance, suddenly felt more like an isolating cage. Its polished surfaces and panoramic views seemed cold and empty, and this little girl, with her dusty feet and a heart brimming with more courage than I had seen in years, had just walked right through its invisible walls. I immediately picked up my phone. My next appointment, a crucial meeting with a group of foreign investors, was scheduled in just 10 minutes. Without a second thought, I canceled it. I then canceled the one after that as well. My assistant's confused voice on the other end of the line sounded a million miles away. The only thing in the world that mattered was a small, brave child sitting right in front of me. I drove Amina to the hospital myself. As we weaved through the city's chaotic traffic, I saw it all with new eyes. The chaos on the streets was no longer just noise. It was a vibrant symphony of human life, filled with countless people just trying to get by, each one trying to make their own dreams happen. There were people just like Amina and her ailing mother, each with a story I had never taken the time to see. At the hospital, we found her mom in a crowded but clean ward. She was a woman with a kind, weary face, but her eyes lit up with overwhelming love and relief the second she saw Amina. The little girl ran to her mother's side, and they just held each other in a long, silent embrace. The mother looked at me, her expression filled with worry, and she tried to sit up. "Sir, I am so sorry," she started, her voice weak. "My daughter, she should not have." I held up a hand to gently stop her. She did exactly what she was supposed to do, I said. She showed me what true courage looks like. I looked at this woman, who, even while sick and filled with worry, possessed such profound dignity. Her concern was not for herself, but for the trouble her daughter might have caused. "Your daughter informed me that you're the best cleaner in all of Dar es Salaam," I said with a warm smile. "She also said this job was your last hope." I let the words hang in the air before I continued. "Well, I don't want to hire someone who is desperate. I want to hire a woman with integrity and character." I paused for a moment, letting my new philosophy sink in. "The job is yours. Your salary officially starts today. And for the time being," I added, "your only job is to get better. My company will take care of all the medical bills. When you are back on your feet, your position will be waiting for you. Any woman who can raise a daughter as remarkable as Amina is exactly the kind of person I want on my team." Tears began to stream down her face, but this time they were tears of pure joy and relief. Amina just beamed, her smile shining brighter than the midday Tanzanian sun. This was more than a job offer. It was a lifeline, a testament to the fact that kindness could still be found in the most unexpected of places. It was a new start, not just for them, but for me as well. The mother's first day of work a few months later was a quiet celebration. I made sure to personally introduce her to the staff, not as a cleaner, but as our new facilities manager. Her quiet competence and gentle leadership quickly won over the entire team. She proved my intuition about her character to be profoundly correct, and her presence became a daily reminder of the lesson her daughter had taught me. I found myself walking the halls of my own company more often, seeing for the first time the people who made my success possible. My connection with the family didn't end with a job offer. I felt a sense of responsibility for the bright little girl who had so bravely stormed my castle and opened my eyes. I saw the same fire in her that had once burned in me, but hers was a purer flame, one I felt compelled to protect and nurture. On one of Amina's after-school visits to my office, I sat with her in the break room. I asked her about her schoolwork, and her eyes lit up as she spoke of science and biology. She described the human heart not as a symbol, but as a magnificent machine, and her passion was palpable. That day, I made a quiet decision. I established an educational trust in her name, a fund that would not only see her to the best schools in Tanzania, but would cover her university fees for medical school, wherever in the world she chose to go. This was not an act of charity. It was an investment. I was investing in a future doctor who I knew would change countless lives, keeping the promise she made in my office to help others. Years passed. I would receive annual report cards and letters from Amina, each one filled with more ambition and intelligence than the last. I attended her secondary school graduation, watching from the back as a confident young woman, who had once been a small, dusty girl, accepted an award for academic excellence. She was no longer defined by a single act of bravery, but by a consistent record of brilliance and hard work. Her mother, now a respected senior executive in my company, stood beside me, her eyes filled with a pride that was deep and powerful. We were no longer just an employer and his employee. We had become something more akin to family, bound by a fateful Tuesday morning. Her success and her daughter's had become intertwined with my own, a legacy far more meaningful than any building I could ever construct. That little girl in the bright chitinge dress didn't just show up for a job interview all those years ago. She showed up and delivered a profound lesson that reshaped the very foundation of my world. She walked into my sterile, orderly life and reminded me of the beautiful, messy, and profound reality that exists outside its walls. She forced me to remember that behind every resume, every title, and every seemingly minor inconvenience like a late appointment, there's a human being with a story, a struggle, and a dream. I had spent decades looking down at the city from my tower, but it took a child to teach me how to truly see the people in it. She taught me that true strength is not measured by the height of your building or the size of your bank account. It is not found in power or control. Real strength is measured by the depth of your compassion and your willingness to see the humanity in others. Today, Amina's mother is one of our company's most valued leaders, celebrated for her wisdom and integrity. Amina herself is now well on her way to become the doctor she vowed to be. Her future as bright as the smile she gave me on that transformative day. And as for me, I learned that sometimes the biggest, most life-altering lessons don't come from a university or a corporate boardroom. They don't come from market analysis or financial reports. Sometimes they come from the brave, loving heart of a little girl who just really, really loves her mom. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like and share it with others. And for more real-life inspired stories that restore your faith in humanity, make sure you subscribe to the channel. What's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Let us know in the comments below.